When you reach the end of this video, you'll wish you saw this sooner. So stick around. So in this video, I'll be covering every single thing that I wish I heard as advice when I was a young teenager. So right now, I'm about to become 19 years old in a few months, and that will be like my last year of a teenager. But these are the advices that I would give and I still give to my young cousins, but people who are like 13, 14, 15. And even if you're like a little bit older, if you don't know any of these things, you'll definitely benefit from these when you're hearing them now. So let's get into it. So if you're a young teenager, your body and your mind is basically like clay. You understand the clay, like which you can mold basically however you want, and then you let it dry, and then it doesn't like switch its place, basically like clay pots. So when you have first like molded their shape, then they don't change their shape for the like rest of life. But the thing is, right now, your body and your mind, both of these things are super adaptable to change, and this is a superpower that you'll never ever have at the rest of your life. So the number one piece of advice that I would give you is that get into as many new things as you can, and like learn as many new things as you can. So the reason for this is because when you learn things at like 13, 14, 15, and these ages, they stick around until you're like until basically the time you die, like at 70 or 60 even. So you don't even need to, like, after a certain point, of course, like when you're learning something new, you need to practice it and you need to do it a couple of times. But once you've done it and once you've mastered it as a teenager, it just never goes away from you, and nobody in the world can take it from you, even if you don't practice. And basically you can't even, like, if you want to, you can't take it out of you. So this is the number one piece of advice that I would give as a young guy, that get into as many things as you can. Like, start learning an instrument if that's what you like, or start learning dancing, start learning coding, video editing. So the things that I learned basically when I was that age is I was super into like Rubik's cubes, like, the six colored cube, and which you can solve really fast. It's like a puzzle. So that, cardistry, I also liked sketching. So right now I'm working more on it, but the base and foundation that I had for sketching is like really, like, even if I'm drawing something which think is shit, and like, doodling in class or whatever, and people go around me go like that's a really nice piece of drawing, and I'm generally surprised, because like in my family, all of us, like all two of my siblings, can draw really well, better than me. So there's also that kind of, you can say, difference, that I don't think which drawing is good. But the point is that I used to draw, I used to do, like, solve Rubik's cubes really fast. It's called like speed solving Rubik's cube. And other than that, I was really into cards and magic tricks. So I'll tell you how much I remember from all of these things, even though I haven't practiced them in like years other than drawing. But first of all, Rubik's cube. Now if anybody knows speed solving, a good, you can say a considerably good amount of time is like solving an entire Rubik's cube in under like 20 to 25 seconds. And that's what, like, my personal best was actually 13 seconds, and I was averaging about 20 seconds per solve. So right now, if I take a Rubik's cube and I really try to like solve it, like go really out, I can go about 40, 35 seconds, something like that. But the thing is, I haven't practiced that in a lot of years, and I'm sure, like, if I really lock in for a month, I can get back to that time that I had, like when I was 13 or 14. And so many years has passed since then. And the same thing with cardistry. So when you're learning card magic, there's a lot of things that if you don't know, then it's like, what is even happening, how did that guy switch that card, or how did it get at the top, like it seems really impossible. But once you start to get into that and like watch a couple of videos on it, then you like kind of start seeing things that, okay, he did that move here and that's how the card went there. So even that kind of thing, like even if I see street magicians or like really top class magicians, then I can kind of work out some things they are doing. Of course, the sleight of hand and all that practice make it seem like really good, you can't tell what they're doing, but in theory, and you actually know what they're doing. So these are the things that I did as a youngster, which are still, like, you can say, they haven't left me, and they can't get out of me even if I try to. So this is the number one thing, that try to get into as many things as you can. So the second thing that I would say for you is get into fitness. any kind of fitness in which you really have to try. Because you see, when you have like a top tier stamina, if you develop that like at 13 or 14, which like some people have genetically good stamina at that age, but if you can develop that, like go running, or if you are into sports, then play football, then that stamina is basically never leaving you. Like I have an uncle who still has pretty good stamina, and he doesn't really like exercise a lot now, but he used to play a lot when he was like a kid. They used to go on runs and things like that, and he can still like probably go for 2 or 3 kilometers without breaking a sweat, like jogging. And that is really impressive for someone for his age. Like he's 40 above, and he hasn't even exercised like in a long time. So that's what I would say is not just like for stamina, which is like the main thing for heart health, and for sprinting. If you do that, like running and sprinting and jumping, these kind of things, that also really help with height growth and proper growth of the like body. But other than that, also for the muscle foundation, because I know a guy in my village, and I used to see him, like he went to the gym really hard when he was like around my age. And he showed me his like physique, and he was like really jacked. And now he's married. It's been like 10 years since that, and he's like also has a belly, and he's gotten really big. He's basically gotten out of shape. But the thing is, he like a few days ago he was like, wow, I can see that you're working out. And he went like, yeah, I also have these like muscles still, but like I've gotten fatter. And he was like, touch this. Those were the hardest muscles I've ever touched in my life, like bricks. Like it was like this bicep, and I touched like this. Like I constantly work out right now, and my muscles are nowhere near like how hard his muscles was. And bear in mind that this guy lives in villages where there's no idea of protein powders, supplements, all of these things. Like these guys have a shit diet, and they still have this level of muscle just because they started early in the age. And this works with any kind of, like if you're building a good physique right now as a teenager, you can basically not fall off. And even if you do fall off, it's really easy for you to get back right on it if you just do a little bit of hard work. So the next advice I would give to myself, which I kind of also worked with, but I didn't really like have this in mind when I was a young guy, it was that don't feel guilty about having fun with your friends and doing things that you actually enjoy. Because the thing is, right now people confuse having genuine fun with mindless consumption. Because if you're scrolling reels on Instagram, you're not having fun. Or if you're like watching shorts on YouTube, or any kind of this degenerate activity, even I would go to this extent of saying that if you're playing Roblox or Minecraft, or like all of these, I don't even know. Like these are pretty good games if you're playing with friends and you're on a Discord call, and sure, like that's enjoyable. But if you're playing it alone, you should like record yourself sometime and see your facial expressions and your body language. You're not enjoying that thing at all. Even with things like if you play competitive games, like I used to back in the day, like Fortnite, Valorant. So these games, like they just fuck your brain. Like in simple words, if you're playing alone, that is. Like if you're playing with friends, you definitely have a good laugh every single time you hop on. But the thing is, if you're playing it alone or doing all of these things alone, this is just mindless consumption, and you shouldn't do these things actively. And if you're doing that, then you should feel guilty about it. But things like going out with your friends and spending time and watching movies, because these days with the idea of everyone should be successful from a young age, so I've seen people like who are 14, 15 years old, and they're grinding so hard on their business and not going out with friends, and they're like lonely. Like that is just not worth it at all for me. Because if you're that young, most likely you're not like struggling with money problems. Like there's food on your table, and there's like a roof above your head. You do not need to be working that hard to make money. Of course you can work out the skills. Like I'm not saying you can learn video editing and all those kind of things that can benefit you overall, but you should not be stressing over money, especially if you're under like 70. After that you can like somewhat say. But even beyond that, like you always should have these kind of things in your life where you're genuinely having fun, and the grind is not worth losing all that fun over your life. So that's something that I would say to you if you're a young guy, that don't feel guilty about like watching anime even, or watching your favorite movie, like things that you actually enjoy. Don't feel guilty about that. And the last thing, which basically I saved the best for the last, is that if you're a student right now and like 13, 14, at this age, this will work especially well for you, is that you can become rich by studying, like in your own home. So what I mean by that is, for most parents, the best thing that they want for their child, which will make their child like the ideal child and they will have no complaints from him, is that he gets good grades. that's basically it. Now there are other things like he doesn't indulge in like parties and doesn't beat up kids on the streets. But the thing is, if you're good at studying, basically you're the ideal child for your parents. And once you're the ideal child, you can get whatever you want. Like you get that kind of treatment for your parents that your friends wish they have. That you're going out, they don't ask you why you're going, where you're going. They can say like, as long as he's working on his grades, you can do whatever you want. The same thing, like my friends, they had times for their consoles or their PCs and mobiles even, that you can only use it for 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day, which was like the most prisoning thing that I can think of. Like I can never imagine my life with that kind of rules. So that's what I did, is that I never gave them anything to complain about and told them that I'm responsible enough that I can do all of these things on my own without any kind of restrictions. And my friends would literally look at me and say like, your parents are really nice. But I would think to myself that if you were doing what I'm doing, your parents would be nice too. You're just not deserving of that thing. So that's basically what I would say is back. And why I say that you become rich is because being rich is being free, and you have a ton of freedom. If your parents are happy from you, they basically give you everything. And even if they don't give you everything, you can basically say that I'm fine personally with having mediocre grades, but if I'm getting good grades, that's for you, right? And then you can leverage that thing to get things that you want. So you can say that if you like, I'm getting good grades for you and I'm doing everything that you want from me, so in return I also want full freedom of my own like life. Of course you shouldn't be like too demanding over here. Like I can come out at like I can come back home at 3 a.m. in the night and you shouldn't be bothering. Of course not like that, but I'm saying things like get me my own room, or like have full custody of your mobiles, PC, gaming consoles, whatever. And that's basically like the ideal life you can have as a child, because you're so free and you only have to study, and the rest of the time you can do whatever you want. So those were the four pieces of advice that I would give to a young teenager, because these advices that I feel like if all of the teenagers of the world hear this, like their life would be so much better, especially the last one. So let me know what you think.